The sun burned fiercely over the vast African savanna, baking the cracked earth and filling the air with shimmering heat. Everything around seemed silent, too silent, as if the land itself was holding its breath. On the dusty road, a small boy sat alone, his knees pulled tightly to his chest. His name was Musa, and his tear-streaked face revealed the fear that had consumed him. The boy had no one to call out to. His world had gone quiet, except for the occasional rustle of tall grass in the distance. But something was wrong, very wrong. Unseen by the boy, a pair of amber eyes watched from the shadows. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just observed him with an eerie stillness. The eyes belonged to a lion, a predator whose very presence could make even the bravest creature tremble. The lion's mane glowed like fire in the fading sunlight, its muscular frame hidden just out of sight. It wasn't hunger that made the lion step closer. It was curiosity, an odd, unexplainable pull toward the frail, trembling figure on the road. Musa's sobs faded as he felt something. A presence. Slowly he lifted his head. His eyes widened as they locked onto the lion's unyielding gaze. His heart pounded wildly. Time seemed frozen. "Run!" screamed every part of Musa's mind, but his body refused to move. The lion took another step forward, its shadow now falling over the boy. What would happen next wasn't just a moment of life and death. It was something extraordinary, something no one could have ever imagined. Musa, a boy no older than 7, sat trembling on the desolate road, his small body hunched over in exhaustion. The unforgiving African sun bore down on him, searing the cracked earth beneath his bare feet. Days ago, Musa's life had been full of love, safety, and stories told by his grandmother in their modest village near the national park. It wasn't much, but it was home, a place where he could smile freely despite the hardships of life. But fate had its own cruel plans. His grandmother, the only family he had left after his parents' death, fell gravely ill. The elders of the village, believing they were giving Musa a better chance, decided to send him to distant relatives in the city. They thought education and a new environment could save him from a future of struggle. With tears streaming down his face, Musa had been put on an old rickety bus headed for the city. The ride was long, the roads bumpy, and the unfamiliarity overwhelming for a boy who had never left his village. The bus reeked of sweat and dust, and the chatter of strangers felt like an unbearable storm in his fragile heart. And then, everything went wrong. The bus came to a jolting stop in the middle of nowhere, smoke rising from its engine. Passengers shuffled off in confusion, deciding to walk toward the nearest town. In the chaos, Musa, shy and scared, was left behind. No one noticed the small boy clutching a tattered bag, his voice too timid to cry out. Hours passed, and the reality of his abandonment began to sink in. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, his lips parched from thirst. The vast expanse of the savannah stretched endlessly around him, beautiful but terrifying. Every sound made him flinch, the calls of distant animals echoing like ghostly whispers. He clutched his small bag tightly. Inside were the last remnants of his old life, a wooden carving his grandmother had given him, a scarf that still carried her faint scent, and a few precious memories. But none of these could protect him from the fear creeping into his soul. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows, Musa felt hope slipping away. His mind wandered to his grandmother's stories, tales of lions, the kings of the savannah, both feared and respected. But those were just stories, weren't they? Nothing in them had prepared him for this nightmare. Little did he know, his life was about to take a turn no story could have predicted. From the shadows of a nearby acacia thicket, the piercing amber eyes of a lion had been watching him. A predator, a king of the wild, and it was moving closer. The sun cast its golden glow over the savannah, illuminating the figure of the frail boy sitting on the dusty road. Musa stared at the endless horizon, his fear growing heavier with each passing moment. But from the shadows of a nearby acacia thicket, a pair of amber eyes observed him with a curious intensity. Assad, a magnificent lion in his prime, had been dozing in the shade when the sound of soft sobs reached his ears. Unlike other lions born in the wild, Assad carried a unique past. Raised in captivity and released into the wild as part of a conservation program, he had spent years surrounded by humans. To him, they were not prey or threats, but strange, fascinating creatures worth observing. Now, as he watched the small, trembling figure, something stirred within him. The boy's quiet cries and vulnerable frame awoke an unusual instinct, a sense of protectiveness unfamiliar to a creature of the wild. The scent of fear lingered in the air, and Assad's powerful frame moved silently through the tall grass, his amber eyes locked on Musa. The boy, lost in his misery, didn't notice the lion until a shadow fell across him. Slowly, he raised his head and froze. Before him stood Assad, his massive form radiating power and majesty. His golden mane seemed to shimmer under the sun, and his eyes, piercing yet calm, locked onto Musa's. The boy's heart raced, every instinct screaming at him to run. But something in the lion's gaze stopped him. There was no malice, no hunger. Instead, there was something that Musa couldn't quite understand, an intelligence, almost human. For a moment, neither moved. It was as if time itself had paused, holding its breath for what would happen next. Assad, sensing the boy's terror, did something no predator should ever do. He lowered his massive body onto the ground, his movements slow and deliberate. His head rested on his paws, his eyes never leaving Musa. It was a gesture of peace, an unspoken promise that he meant no harm. Musa's small hands gripped the strap of his bag tightly as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. He had grown up hearing tales of lions, beasts of unmatched strength and ferocity. Yet here, one of those very beasts lay before him, calm and gentle, as though trying to soothe his fears. As minutes passed, the boy's breathing steadied. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out toward the lion. His fingers trembled as they grazed the edge of Assad's mane, the coarse fur warm beneath his touch. The lion remained still, his rhythmic breathing a steady reassurance. Musa couldn't explain why, but he felt safe for the first time since he had been left alone. Exhaustion finally overtook him. With Assad's massive form providing warmth and comfort, the boy leaned into the lion's mane and closed his eyes. As the boy drifted into a deep sleep, Assad remained vigilant. His sharp senses scanned the savannah, his ears twitching at the faintest sound, the rustle of grass, the distant call of birds. He was alert to it all. Any predator venturing too close would face his wrath. The golden hues of the sun began to soften as hours passed, painting the landscape in shades of amber and crimson. Assad's massive frame remained curled protectively around the boy, the two forming an unbreakable bond in the heart of the wild. As the day waned, neither boy nor lion could have predicted how this encounter would reshape their lives forever. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the golden savannah, a new sound broke the tranquil rhythm of the wild, a distant hum, faint but growing louder. Assad's ears perked up, his body tensing as the sound transformed into the unmistakable rumble of an approaching vehicle. The boy remained asleep, undisturbed by the new noise. Assad lifted his head, his amber eyes narrowing as he scanned the horizon. Moments later, the vehicle came into view, a battered Land Rover bouncing along the uneven road, its weathered frame dusted with the reddish hues of the savannah. Inside, Dr. Amina Okafor gripped the wheel tightly, her eyes scanning the landscape ahead with determination. Amina, a seasoned wildlife veterinarian and conservationist, had been searching tirelessly since hearing of the broken-down bus. When reports came of a missing child, she'd set out immediately, her years of fieldwork preparing her for unpredictable situations. But nothing could have prepared her for the sight that greeted her as the vehicle rounded the bend. Her breath caught in her throat. There, bathed in the warm light of the setting sun, lay a massive lion curled protectively around a small boy. The child's frail figure was nestled against the lion's golden mane, both seemingly at peace in each other's presence. "Stop the car!" Amina whispered, her voice barely audible, as if afraid to shatter the fragile scene before her. David, her colleague, slammed on the brakes, the vehicle halting with a jolt. "Is that—" David began, his voice trailing off in disbelief. "It is," Amina replied, her eyes never leaving the pair. "And whatever you do, don't make any sudden moves." She opened the car door slowly, her every movement measured and deliberate. Assad's head snapped toward her, his piercing gaze locking onto hers. For a moment, Amina froze. The lion's eyes were not wild or predatory. They held a calm awareness, as if assessing her intentions. With steady steps, Amina approached. "Hello, beautiful," she murmured softly, her tone soothing and melodic. She had spoken to countless animals in her career, but this was unlike anything she had ever encountered. Assad's body remained coiled around the boy, his powerful frame exuding both strength and serenity. Amina stopped a few paces away, lowering herself to a crouch to appear less threatening. "We're here to help," she continued, addressing both the lion and the boy. "We mean no harm." As she drew closer, Amina's heart pounded in her chest. The boy's chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm, his small hand clutching the lion's mane even in sleep. It was a sight so tender, so profoundly unexpected, that tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. Reaching out, she gently touched the boy's shoulder. "Little one," she called softly, her voice full of care. "Can you wake up for me?" Musa stirred, his eyelids fluttering open. At first, confusion clouded his expression as he took in the strange woman kneeling beside him. Then, as awareness returned, he sat up abruptly, instinctively pressing himself closer to Assad's warm bulk. "It's all right," Amina soothed, her voice gentle but firm. "You're safe now. We've been looking for you. Can you tell me your name?" "Musa," the boy replied, his voice hoarse from hours of crying. "Hello, Musa. I'm Dr. Amina," she said with a reassuring smile. "We're here to help you. Can you tell me what happened?" As Musa haltingly recounted his story, Amina felt her heart ache for the boy. His words painted a picture of loss, fear, and resilience. But even as she listened, her mind raced with questions. How had this lion, a wild predator, come to protect a human child? Throughout the boy's story, Assad remained a steadfast presence. His eyes never left the boy, and occasionally he nuzzled Musa's arm with gentle reassurance. The lion's behavior defied everything Amina thought she knew about animal instincts. When Musa finished speaking, Amina placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You've been so brave, Musa," she said. "We need to take you somewhere safe, where you can rest, eat, and drink. But," she paused, glancing at the lion, "I see that you and your friend here have a special bond. Would you like him to come with us, if he's willing?" Musa's eyes lit up at the suggestion, his small face breaking into a hopeful smile. He nodded eagerly, clutching Assad's mane as if afraid to let go. Amina then turned her attention to the lion, feeling slightly foolish as she addressed him directly. "What do you say, beautiful? Will you come with us?" I promise we'll take good care of both of you." To her astonishment, Assad seemed to understand. Rising gracefully to his feet, he gently nudged Musa toward Amina, as if giving his approval. What followed was a sight unlike any the savannah had ever seen. Amina walked slowly back to the Land Rover, Musa's small hand clasped in hers. Behind them, Assad followed, his powerful presence a comfort rather than a threat. David watched the procession unfold with wide eyes. "Amina!" he hissed as they approached the vehicle. "We can't take a wild lion back to the station." Amina's eyes sparkled with determination. "David, I don't think this is just any lion. Look at him. Have you ever seen anything like this? This could be the discovery of a lifetime." Reluctantly, David nodded. As Amina helped Musa into the vehicle, Assad padded to the back. With a single, effortless leap, the lion settled into the open rear, his massive frame curling protectively around the boy once more. As the Land Rover rumbled back toward the research station, Amina's mind buzzed with questions. How had this lion developed such a bond with humans? And what would this extraordinary encounter mean for their understanding of the natural world? The journey was just beginning. As the Land Rover approached the research station, the sky began to darken, painted in shades of deep orange and purple. The headlights cut through the growing shadows, illuminating the path ahead. Inside the vehicle, the atmosphere was tense, yet filled with awe. David stole nervous glances in the rearview mirror, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. In the back, Musa leaned into Assad, the boy's small fingers gripping the lion's thick mane. The gentle rise and fall of Assad's breathing calmed him, creating a cocoon of safety amidst the unknown. Amina, seated beside David, remained silent, her mind racing with the enormity of what had just unfolded. When the station finally came into view, they were greeted by a small crowd of researchers and staff who had heard rumors of something extraordinary. The Land Rover came to a stop, and a hush fell over the gathered group. Amina stepped out first, her face glowing with excitement and wonder. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I'd like you to meet Musa and his extraordinary protector, Assad." The onlookers gasped as the boy climbed out of the vehicle, followed by the lion. Assad moved with measured grace, his powerful frame dwarfing the small boy at his side. But it wasn't fear that filled the air. It was amazement. As the pair stepped into the circle of onlookers, whispers rippled through the crowd. "Is that really a lion?" someone murmured. "And he's protecting the boy?" Amina raised a hand to quiet the murmurs. "What we are witnessing here defies everything we thought we knew about animal behavior. This lion isn't just a protector, he's a friend, a guardian. And I believe their bond could teach us more than we've ever imagined about the connection between humans and animals." Assad remained calm, his amber eyes scanning the crowd with quiet intelligence. Musa stood close to him, one hand resting on the lion's back, drawing courage from his presence. "Let's get Musa checked out," Amina said, her voice gentle but firm. She gestured for the medical team to step forward. "And we'll need to set up a secure, comfortable space for Assad. He stays with the boy." The staff moved quickly, guided by Amina's leadership. Musa was taken inside for a medical examination, and Assad was led to a spacious enclosure near the research station. The lion followed willingly, his gaze occasionally flicking toward the boy as if to ensure he was safe. Inside the medical bay, Amina knelt beside Musa as the doctors checked his vitals. "How are you feeling, little one?" she asked, her tone warm and reassuring. "Tired," Musa admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I feel better now." "You're so brave, Musa," Amina said, giving him a kind smile. "You and Assad have been through so much together. But you're safe now, and we'll do everything we can to help you both." As Musa rested, the research team began their work. Amina and her colleagues observed Assad closely. documenting his behavior and interactions. What they discovered left them stunned. Not only was Assad intelligent, far more so than they had believed a lion could be, but he also displayed an extraordinary level of empathy. He seemed attuned to Musa's emotions, offering comfort when the boy was anxious and keeping a watchful eye on anyone who approached. Over the following days, the story of Musa and Assad began to spread. Word of the unlikely pair reached journalists and wildlife experts worldwide, sparking debates and discussions. How had a wild lion formed such a deep bond with a human child? And what could this relationship teach them about the potential for understanding between species? But while the world marveled, Amina's focus remained on Musa and Assad. She watched as the boy's confidence grew, his trauma beginning to heal in the lion's presence. And she wondered, what was the best way forward for both of them? The days turned into weeks, and the story of Musa and Assad spread like wildfire. News outlets across the globe ran headlines about the boy and the lion, dubbing their bond a real-life miracle. Journalists and documentarians flocked to the research station, eager to capture this extraordinary tale. Musa, though shy at first, began to warm up to the attention. Assad remained his constant source of strength, standing protectively by his side whenever strangers approached. The lion's calm, regal demeanor only added to the mystique of their story. Amina, meanwhile, found herself at the center of an unprecedented situation. The research station, once a quiet haven for wildlife studies, had become the epicenter of a global phenomenon. But as much as the attention brought excitement and opportunity, it also raised critical questions. In the conference room one morning, Amina sat with her team to discuss the next steps. "We're at a crossroads," she said, her tone serious but measured. "Assad and Musa have shown us something incredible. But we can't forget the challenges this situation brings, for them and for us." "What are the options?" asked David, leaning forward in his chair. "I mean, we can't keep them here forever. This is a research station, not a permanent home." Amina nodded. "Exactly. We need to consider their long-term well-being. Some are arguing that Assad should be released back into the wild, but—" She hesitated. Separating him from Musa would be devastating for both of them. "And Musa?" Another researcher chimed in. "He's a child. He needs stability, education, a proper home." Amina sighed. "I know, but we can't ignore the bond they share. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. If we take that away, we risk undoing all the healing they've done together." The room fell silent as the weight of the situation sank in. It wasn't just about Musa and Assad anymore. Their story had touched millions, sparking debates about the nature of empathy, the intelligence of animals, and the potential for deeper human-animal connections. Later that day, Amina watched Musa and Assad from a distance. The boy sat on the grass, leaning against the lion's massive frame, his small hand absently stroking the soft mane. Assad's eyes were half closed, his body relaxed yet alert. It was a scene of pure trust and companionship, and it solidified Amina's resolve. That evening, she called for a meeting with the station's board of directors. "I have a proposal," she began, her voice steady. "It's unconventional, but I believe it's the best path forward, for both Musa and Assad." The board members listened intently as Amina outlined her vision. A sanctuary that would serve as a safe haven for Musa and Assad, while also becoming a center for groundbreaking research on human-animal relationships. "This would be more than just a sanctuary," Amina explained. "It would be a place where people could learn from Musa and Assad's bond, a living example of what's possible when we open our hearts and minds to the natural world." The idea was met with both excitement and skepticism. "It's ambitious," one board member said, "and it will require significant funding and resources." "I know," Amina replied, "but I believe the world is ready for this. Musa and Assad have already inspired so many. If we can turn their story into a platform for education and conservation, we could make a real difference. The board agreed to move forward with the plan, and Amina wasted no time rallying support. She reached out to conservation organizations, animal behaviorists, and philanthropists, sharing the vision of a sanctuary that would honor Musa and Assad's unique bond. As the plans took shape, Musa and Assad continued to thrive. The boy's laughter grew more frequent, his smiles brighter, and Assad, though still a wild predator, displayed a remarkable gentleness that amazed everyone who interacted with him. Their story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the harshest circumstances, love and compassion could prevail. With the world captivated by Musa and Assad's story, support for Amina's vision began pouring in. Donations, messages of encouragement, and offers of assistance arrived from across the globe. Conservationists, philanthropists, and even ordinary people were inspired by the bond between the boy and the lion, eager to see what this sanctuary could achieve. The sanctuary, set on the edge of the national park, was designed to be more than just a safe haven. It was envisioned as a living laboratory where humans and animals could coexist, learn, and heal. The main facility included research labs, observation platforms, and educational spaces for visitors. Nearby, open enclosures mimicked the natural habitats of the animals, ensuring they could thrive while remaining part of the sanctuary's mission. For Musa, the sanctuary offered a fresh start. Amina arranged for him to receive an education tailored to his needs, blending traditional schooling with lessons about wildlife conservation. His days were filled with learning, exploring, and spending time with Assad. The lion quickly became the sanctuary's ambassador, his calm demeanor and extraordinary connection with Musa drawing visitors from far and wide. Families, students, and researchers came to witness the bond firsthand, their hearts touched by the sight of a boy and a lion who had found peace in each other's presence. One sunny afternoon, as construction on the sanctuary neared completion, Musa joined Amina on a hill overlooking the site. The boy's eyes sparkled as he took in the enclosures, the observation towers, and the sprawling grasslands that stretched into the horizon. "It's beautiful," Musa said softly, his hand resting on Assad's mane. "It is," Amina agreed. "And it's all because of you and Assad. None of this would have been possible without your story." Musa looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think other people will understand? That they'll see how special Assad is?" Amina smiled. "I think they already do. But this sanctuary will help them understand even more. It will show the world what's possible when we treat animals with respect and compassion." As the sanctuary opened its doors, it became clear that Amina's vision was more than just a dream. It was a movement. Visitors marveled at the way Musa and Assad interacted, their bond a testament to the potential for harmony between humans and animals. One of the sanctuary's first major projects was a program aimed at-risk youth. Musa, remembering his own journey, took a personal interest in the initiative. He worked closely with the children, sharing his story and encouraging them to form connections with the sanctuary's animals. "You don't have to be afraid," Musa told a young boy who hesitated to approach one of the rescued animals. "They can feel what you're feeling. If you're calm and kind, they'll trust you." The boy took a deep breath, his hand trembling slightly as he reached out to the animal. When the creature nuzzled his palm, his face lit up with joy. Musa smiled, a quiet pride filling his chest. It was moments like these that reminded him why the sanctuary mattered. As months turned into years, the sanctuary flourished. Researchers published groundbreaking studies on animal intelligence and empathy, many of which were inspired by Assad's behavior. Visitors left with a renewed appreciation for the natural world, their perspectives forever changed by the extraordinary story of a boy and a lion. Despite the sanctuary's success, challenges arose. Balancing the needs of the animals with the demands of the growing number of visitors required constant effort. There were debates about expanding the sanctuary and concerns about maintaining its original mission. Through it all, Amina remained steadfast, her dedication to Musa and Assad guiding every decision. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Musa sat with Assad in their favorite spot overlooking the sanctuary. The lion's mane was beginning to show streaks of gray, and his movements had slowed, but his presence was as strong and comforting as ever. "You know," Musa said, his voice soft, "when I first met you, I thought I was lost, but you found me. You gave me a reason to keep going." Assad rumbled in response, his amber eyes fixed on Musa with an expression that seemed to hold years of understanding. "And now," Musa continued, "we've helped so many others. This sanctuary, it's not just our home, it's a chance to show the world what's possible." As the stars began to fill the sky, Musa felt a deep sense of peace. The sanctuary, born from a chance encounter on a dusty road, had become a place of hope and healing. And while challenges lay ahead, he knew that with Assad by his side, anything was possible. Years passed, and the sanctuary continued to thrive, growing into a beacon of hope and innovation. Musa, now a confident young man in his 20s, had fully embraced his role as an ambassador for conservation. Assad remained by his side, his presence as steadfast as ever, even as age began to take its toll on the majestic lion. Together, they had become symbols of what was possible when compassion bridged the divide between humans and animals. Musa's bond with Assad inspired countless initiatives around the world. Conservation programs began integrating human-animal relationship studies into their efforts. Schools added the story of Musa and Assad to their curriculum, teaching children the value of empathy and coexistence. Media outlets regularly covered the sanctuary's work, spreading its message to millions. Musa traveled extensively, sharing his story at conferences, schools, and conservation summits. He spoke passionately about his journey, from a frightened boy abandoned on a dusty road to a young leader determined to protect the natural world. "I was lost," Musa would often say, "but I was found in the most unexpected way. Assad taught me that love and trust can cross any boundary. If a lion can show compassion, why can't we?" These words resonated deeply, sparking movements and conversations that transcended borders. Musa's efforts weren't just about saving wildlife, they were about saving humanity's connection to the natural world. Back at the sanctuary, Musa remained deeply involved in daily operations. He worked closely with the research team, helping to design new programs that brought people and animals together. One of his most successful initiatives was the Youth Mentorship Program, which paired children facing adversity with animals in need of care. One day, as Musa watched a young girl timidly approach a rescued cheetah, he saw a reflection of his younger self in her hesitant steps. The girl knelt beside the animal, her face lighting up as the cheetah nuzzled her hand. It was a moment of connection that needed no words, and Musa felt a swell of pride knowing the sanctuary was creating ripples of change. Assad, though older now, remained a central figure in the sanctuary. His calm, gentle demeanor had become a source of comfort for both visitors and staff. He continued to be Musa's unwavering companion, their bond unshaken by time. But as the years wore on, Musa began to notice the signs of Assad's age, the slower movements, the longer naps, the streaks of gray in his once brilliant mane. One cool evening, Musa sat with Assad on their favorite hill overlooking the sanctuary. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the grasslands. "You've given me everything," Musa said softly, his hand resting on Assad's mane. I wouldn't be here without you. None of this would exist without you. Assad rumbled in response, his amber eyes meeting Musa's with an expression of quiet understanding. It was as if the lion knew the weight of Musa's words, the depth of his gratitude. I wish we had forever, Musa whispered, his voice thick with emotion. But I promise you, your legacy will live on. This sanctuary, the lives we've touched, it's all because of you. As the first stars began to twinkle in the sky, Musa felt a profound sense of peace. Assad's presence, even in his twilight years, was a reminder of the bond that had changed his life and inspired countless others. The sanctuary continued to evolve, expanding its reach and impact. New enclosures were built to house rescued animals, and partnerships with other conservation organizations brought fresh ideas and resources. Visitors from around the world came to see the place where a boy and a lion had defied the odds and shown the world the power of compassion. Musa's work extended far beyond the sanctuary. He became a leading voice in global conservation efforts, advocating for policies that protected wildlife and promoted coexistence. His story, and the lessons he had learned from Assad, became a rallying cry for change. One of Musa's proudest moments came when he was invited to address the United Nations on the importance of conservation. Standing before world leaders, he spoke with a calm conviction that left the room silent. We share this planet with countless other species, Musa said. Our survival is intertwined with theirs. Assad taught me that compassion has no boundaries, no limits. If we can learn to care for the natural world as he cared for me, we can create a future where all life thrives. The applause that followed was thunderous, but Musa's thoughts were with the lion who had started it all. Assad's influence was woven into every word he spoke, every action he took. As the years went on, the sanctuary remained a place of hope and healing. It became a model for similar initiatives around the world, proving that humans and animals could coexist in harmony. Researchers published groundbreaking studies on animal intelligence and empathy, their findings challenging long-held beliefs and inspiring new approaches to conservation. Through it all, Musa and Assad's bond remained unbroken. Even as the lion grew frailer, his spirit remained strong, his presence a constant source of comfort for Musa. One quiet morning, as the sun rose over the savannah, Musa sat with Assad on their hill. The lion rested his head in Musa's lap, his breathing slow but steady. The moment was peaceful, filled with the kind of understanding that needed no words. You've done more than anyone could have asked, Musa said, his voice barely above a whisper. You've changed the world, Assad, and I'll make sure your story is never forgotten. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, Musa felt a renewed sense of purpose. The sanctuary, the work they had started together, was only the beginning. With Assad's legacy as his guide, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The story of the boy and the lion had become a symbol of hope, a reminder of what was possible when compassion bridged the gap between humans and the natural world. And as Musa looked out over the sanctuary, he knew that their journey, though extraordinary, was just the beginning of something even greater. Years passed, but the sanctuary's work and impact only grew. It became a haven for both animals and people, a place where connections blossomed and compassion thrived. Musa, now a seasoned conservationist, had dedicated his life to carrying forward the lessons he learned from Assad. The lion, though physically frail in his later years, remained the heart of the sanctuary and a living symbol of hope. One morning, as the sun bathed the savannah in soft golden light, Musa found Assad resting in their favorite spot atop the hill. The lion's breathing was slow, his once vibrant mane now streaked with gray, but his eyes still held the same gentle wisdom that had captivated Musa years ago. Musa knelt beside him, his hand finding its familiar place on Assad's mane. "You've done everything and more," Musa said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "You've given me strength, taught me compassion, and helped me see the world in ways I never thought possible." Assad let out a low, contented rumble, his eyes meeting Musa's as if to say, "It's your turn now." As the day unfolded, the sanctuary's staff noticed a profound stillness in the air. Animals seemed to move more slowly, the usual chatter of birds subdued. By evening, Assad passed away peacefully, his final moments spent in the arms of the boy he had once saved. The sanctuary fell into mourning, yet Musa knew that Assad's legacy was far from over. He held a gathering to celebrate the lion's extraordinary life, inviting visitors, researchers, and community members to honor the impact Assad had made. "Assad wasn't just a lion," Musa said, addressing the crowd with a steady voice. "He was a teacher, a protector, and a friend. His legacy lives on in this sanctuary, in every life he touched, and in the bond that proved compassion knows no boundaries." The days that followed were bittersweet. Though the sanctuary felt different without Assad's presence, his influence remained palpable. Visitors would pause at the hilltop, reflecting on the remarkable story of a lion and a boy who defied the odds. Musa continued his work with renewed determination, ensuring that Assad's memory inspired generations to come. He created a dedicated space within the sanctuary, a memorial garden filled with native plants, where visitors could learn about Assad's story and the sanctuary's mission. As Musa stood in the garden one evening, watching the sun set over the savannah, he felt a deep sense of peace. Assad was gone, but his spirit was everywhere, in the sanctuary's thriving animals, in the lives of the people Musa helped, and in the unshakable bond they had shared. Their story, Musa knew, would live on forever.